Okay. I always forget to do that recording. So this is the presentation for troubleshooting common issues in PowerSchool special programs. And one of the places I wanted to direct you to, first off, is this Special Programs Live Binder. I mentioned it a couple of slides ago when I was talking about the Alabama PowerSchool edition of the web page, because there is the link that says special programs at the bottom left of that web page takes you here to this live binder. And Sherry has built this out, and there are documents and presentations, recording. There's a tab for our presentations and recordings and a tab for our reports. So if you click on this tab for the PowerPoint presentations and recordings, you're going to see something that looks like this. And Sherry and I have built out a spreadsheet for this. And the neat thing about this is, well, the spreadsheet actually has another column right here that tells when we added the presentation, and then if we've added it and then it's been updated, we also put in a column to say updated. So, for example, this presentation, I presented it on May 5th. Well, I have updated it, and so today it's a little different than the one I presented on May 5th. I added a couple of things that I thought were important. And so when I go and after this presentation, when I put the recording there, there will be a place that says updated 5/19, and you will know that it has been updated. And even though you may not want to go back and watch the whole recording, you could at least pull out the PowerPoint and look at the slides. Okay? So make sure you're utilizing these important things. Also, there's a tab for reports. For example, if you call me and you say, Samantha, I need a report that shows X, Y, and Z, and I build it for you, and maybe you want me to drop it in your instance of special programs. Well, we do that. But we also, a lot of times, add them here, because the likelihood of you needing a report and someone else needing the same report is high. So if we build a report for somebody, we drop it in here so that you could go if you wanted to, and you can see the description and when it was added. And then, of course, if we update it, this is where we'll put information about that. And then we will put those report definitions here in this column. And then, of course, the same directions here as are right here, but it's just how you actually complete that upload to put this report in your instance of special programs. Okay, so Sherry and I, over the last few weeks, we have, Stacy Royster, our leader and boss, has been sending Sherry and me and the other PowerSchool coaches AIM errors. And so we have been working to try to clean those up. So I'm going to talk about that today in the presentation. But also, I wanted to address things that we have been getting calls about. And these are repeat calls, usually, about things that are going on in people's instances of special programs. And so I wanted to address those here. One issue that we see is the problem is they can't create IEPs in the new year. Okay? Well, one solution for that is the way you fix that is to update the allowable years. And you do that by first of all, you're going to need to assume the admin role. And then you go to Administration and Configuration, and you click the pencil next to the range. And then you would go down here and you would allow the latest year, and this allows you to write IEPs for next school year and do documents in next school year. And then you set that, and then now your teachers can put IEPs in for next school year. Okay? Most everybody probably has that one done, but at the beginning of the month, we were getting lots of calls about this. Okay? Another problem is the transition pages in the IEP are gone. I have gotten several frantic calls. Oh no, my teacher has put in transition information and now it's gone. Well, it's because this checkbox right here, and this box is only visible when you're in edit mode. And of course, you can't edit a final, so you would have to be in draft or review depending on the way you have your permissions set. So When you are in draft or review, you will see this box, preschool student, and then another one, secondary transition student. In order for those transition pages to show, you have to have this checked. Very easy fix, okay? Another issue or problem that we have been seeing is there is nothing in the to drop-down box. So when you're trying to finalize those notice of IEP meeting forms, I know that's not the technically new name of that form, but I'm an old dog and it's hard to teach us new tricks. So anyway, the reason that to box is empty is because the student does not have contacts, okay? So this is how you check for that. In the flyout menu, you would go to student contacts, and you can see in this bottom insert, there are no contacts. Well, there's a quick fix. The quick fix would be to add those student contacts right here. And I know you've been hearing a lot about us. Don't you modify those profiles. Well, when we talk about modifying the profile, we're usually talking about this special education tab right here. But the one that says student contacts, if you had to, you could add that in a pinch. I don't recommend that way because this particular field, along with the student demographics field right here, profile, these are owned, this data in these two profiles are owned by PowerSchool SIS. And when we say owned by, that means that whatever's in PowerSchool SIS is what's going to populate here in special programs. So when we change things on either that student demographic page or the student contact page, as soon as PowerSchool SIS and special programs talk again, it's going to wipe out any changes you make. So that's what I'm saying. It might work in a minute pinch, but it's not going to work in the long run. So the correct way to address this would be to talk to your SIS person, whoever puts student information in when they get the students set up so that we can see them in special programs. Have them make sure they put contact information in. Now, some things you need to check. So this is the SIS view right here. So whoever puts that information in would go to the student profile and contact management. And then when they get to contact management, they will see a list of contacts, okay? One thing that they need to check is they need to make sure that contact is active, okay? Also, this receives mail box must be checked. So if that receives mail box is not checked, then that person will not show up right here in special programs. So making sure that those things, that those things are checked will help ensure that you can see those people and that they will populate into the drop-down box on your forms in special programs. Okay? Another issue that we've had come to our attention is people cannot enter mastery dates on annual goal pages. So we had earlier, it's getting that time of year where teachers are having to send those progress reports out, and they can't write in those mastery dates. Well, somehow something got changed during the year in our updates or something, and so it caused these boxes right here in our document templates to not be checked, and this is how you fix it. You're going to have to assume the admin role. And then you're going to go to Administration and Security, and you're going to go down to the Special Education Security Group, and you're going to expand that so you can see the different profiles under that. See? And then you're going to select Special Education Teacher Security Group. And then under that, you're going to see three tabs: Properties and Privileges, Members, and Document Templates. Once you see those three, you're going to click Document Templates right here, and then you're going to go down to next to the IEP, and you're going to click the magnifying glass to the left of the IEP. And then when you get here, it's going to show you this page. Now, you can choose to edit document-wide rights or section rights. And in this instance, we want to edit section rights because we want to give teachers the right to edit final, okay? Now what that means is they will not have to set that document back in edit mode. They won't have to create an amendment and they won't have to unfinalize. All they'll have to do is click on edit for the transition goal and the annual goal in order to enter those mastery dates. Now keep in mind, you don't want to set the document-wide rights to edit final because we don't want them to edit the whole IEP. We only want them to have rights to edit the transition goal and the annual goal right here. You want to put check marks right there, okay? Now, another common issue, and you know, it's getting to the time of year where we're going to be starting to finalize our reports and look at reporting for the fall. And one thing that we do report on in the fall is our EIDA preschool tracking log. And so I've already been getting calls. You should be checking this tracking log at least every month to make sure your students who are coming from early intervention are being, the timelines are being met and that kind of thing is happening. And so we've been getting calls. Little Johnny is missing from my EIDA preschool tracking log. And the culprit every time has been some little small checkbox, pretty much without fail, except for maybe one instance, and I'm going to tell you about that. So the first thing you need to do when you are missing a student on your EIDA preschool tracking log is you're going to come over to the preschool profile tab, and you're going to fly out here, and you're going to check for these dates. And if your tab, your profile for preschool does not look like this, then there is something wrong, okay? And if this is not completed like this, and remember, we are not pressing edit and sticking dates in. Let's not do that. The program is designed to read information back from your documents to this page. And each document that we have in special programs has logic built into it. And so one of the problems that we've had is maybe when the document was finalized, the child's birth date was wrong, or they were finalized in different orders. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go to that student's demographics page. Let's go back right here to the student demographics layout, and you need to check their birth date and make sure that all that information is there. Okay, so I have someone that says they can't hear. If you cannot hear me, will you let me know? Other than I have one person that cannot hear me. Did everybody else hear me? A recording? And we'll move on. Okay, so, but check the birth date and the grade level, because one of the things with the early intervention, like our referral, our early intervention pieces, like the date, the letter of notification from EI, what is that? The transition, I'm sorry, the transition document from EI, and then the eligibility, all of that has logic built into it. So it's looking for students who are 3. It's looking for students in that grade level. And it's also looking for the date that it's finalized. And so it knows that if these things occur, then it writes back to this place. And if these other specific set of circumstances occur, it writes back to another place. So closing your forms in the correct order, as in like your referral, should be done after your transition planning meeting form is put in and finalized, and then your referral needs to be finalized, and then your eligibility needs to be finalized, and then after your eligibility, your IEP. So make sure you're completing those things in the correct order. Now, some other little things after you've checked that will need to be looked at, such as these fields. Okay, so one of the things, remember a few minutes ago we talked about the secondary transition student field? Well, this preschool student field is another thing that must be checked. And again, you can't check it on your finalized document. So you're going to have to make sure you've checked it in your draft. Okay, so you can only see this field if you're in edit mode. So this one, if you're doing a preschool IEP, we want to make sure we check this. Also, on your eligibility decision, on your eligibility decision, make sure you're filling out this information at the bottom of the page. Again, this part is not available in any other mode other than edit. So you want to make sure you're completing this in order for this information to write back to these fields. And when you finalize your documents, it looks at the grade level and all of that information, and then it will write back here to this profile, if this preschool profile area, if the conditions in the logic of those forms are correct. And look, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Sherry and I can help you troubleshoot this, but just know these are some areas that we need to pay attention to and that we will need to remind our teachers about looking for. Okay? So another thing that a lot of people have been confused about, annual reviews have been conducted, but the date hasn't changed. So sometimes we conduct annual reviews and we don't write a new IEP. For example, seniors that are graduating, they're not going to have a new IEP for next year, but we still have an annual review due date. So we need to review their current IEP. That's one reason. Another reason might be that the annual review due date is very early. Maybe it's in March or February. And so we need to go ahead and conduct an annual review, but we're not quite ready to write that new IEP. And so if you'll look at this insert right here, there are two dates on the IEP profile, the special education profile page in the IEP section. There's this annual review due date that's circled right here in red. Okay, and you can see it's March 12th, 2025. Well, the review date here is empty because the only time you will ever have a review date here is if you review the IEP while it is without writing a new IEP. And the way you keep up with that is when you hold your annual review, and of course you're going to create an amendment, you're going to note on the profile page in the other section that an annual review was held, and you're gonna enter your progress or that kind of information. You're going to talk about whatever it is using guidance from your director on how he or she wants that documented on the profile page. And then you're going to go to the signature page and you're going to type in your signature date when you reviewed that IEP, and in the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to put in this field the date you reviewed that IEP, okay, the date your annual review was held. And when you finalize that signature page, it's going to write back to this field, review date. And it will not change this annual review due date, because the only time this annual review due date gets changed is when a new IEP is created. So this one will not change until you have a new IEP that goes from the next school year, August, whatever, 2025 to May or August, or ever how your district writes their IEPs. So when these dates change here, then this date will change, okay? And then this date will then go away. And this is how, as a director, you would monitor it. So whatever report that you are using to keep up and make sure your people are meeting their annual review due dates, you would also just add a column for the review date so that you would know, for example, this one had an IEP annual review due date. Well, it's May the 19th today. So let's just say I'm running this report for May 19th. Then I can see that this student has an annual review due date of March 12th. And I can quickly see that they did hold an annual review on March 10th. So that lets me know, check, yes, that they did meet that annual review date compliance piece. And I also can take a quick glance that the current IEP end date is 5/23. So I know that they just have 4 days left to get the new IEP in place. And if you refer to the Mastering the Maze, you will find that the Mastering the Maze says that you have to have a new IEP for the next school year in place by the end date of the current IEP. So if this were me and I was the director and I was seeing this and I know it's May 19th, today I would be sending an email to this teacher that says you need to have a new IEP in place for this student by what's the 23rd? Friday. Okay. All right. Another issue we have been seeing across the board is we've been having some AIM errors. LRE must contain a valid code. Y'all, the amount of errors that we have been seeing is a little bit scary. Okay, so one thing we're seeing this, there are 2 reasons this can happen. Okay, number one, when we're fixing it, you see this in red? Do not manually change that LRE code or any other elements of the special ed profile. Okay, so number one, that. So don't go right here and say, oh, that LRE is empty. Let me just edit and stick one in there. Please don't do that. All of these fields are meant to be document driven. So first thing you need to look at is go over to the Students Document Hub and look to make sure that the IEP has been finalized, because IEPs or documents that are not finalized will not write back over into the profile. Okay? The second thing you need to understand is it's not immediate. So when you finalize an IEP, it writes to the special education history profile. And then after that, when the Power School and special programs talk again, usually it's overnight, then it writes from the special education history over back into this IEP profile. So give it overnight to make sure it works. And if it's still not showing up, then reach out to Sherry or me, or you can put in a ticket with Power School to see what's going on. But please do not just manually change those LRE codes, okay? Another reason this has been happening is because students are being marked active before they have an IEP. So so think about our new referrals, okay? Our new referrals come in to our district, and we should, when we bring a new student in from the gen ed table, because they're going to start through the referral process, we should not be changing those statuses. So when you bring that student in, they call you at the central office and they say, hey, I've got a new referral, and you say, okay, I'll add them to your caseload, and you go bring that student in from the general ed students table. Do not mark that student referred on this status, okay? Go in there, hit edit profile, and give them a case manager. And after that, leave it alone. Leave them inactive, because once that case manager goes in there, creates that referral form, and has held the referral meeting, if that student is accepted for evaluation, then that status will automatically change. When the referral form is finalized, it will automatically change that status to referred. So make sure you're waiting for that. Likewise, when a student is found eligible and an IEP is created and finalized, then that status will change to active, because we should not be having students that are marked active after they're found eligible but before an IEP is written. A lot of these LRE codes are because case managers or directors are going in and saying, oh, or psychometrists are going in and saying, oh, we found them eligible today. Let me change their status to active. What makes a student active is when they're receiving services. So we need to wait. The program is designed and set up to look for the logic. Remember, we're talking about logic. So it's looking for an eligibility and an IEP before that status is supposed to change to active. Okay? Now, if a student, this is just another thing that we've been dealing with, and this, so I added it to the bottom of this page. Look at the very bottom. If a student is found eligible, let's just say they're eligible today, and we hold that eligibility meeting, and we finalize that eligibility, and they withdraw, and they go somewhere else. Do not enter exiting information on that profile because that student was never truly active. Yes, they were determined eligible, but that was it. So finalize that eligibility and do not touch that profile. PowerSchool will automatically set them as inactive when they withdraw from SIS. So SIS will control that status. And you do not have to enter exiting information because they were never truly in the program if they did not have an active IEP. So keep that in mind. If you have questions and you need some just to talk that through, call Sherry or me and we'll try to help understand. And I know some of this stuff may just go against what we think it ought to be, but this is how the program is designed. Okay, this is another issue. Primary exceptionality must contain a valid code. We're seeing lots and lots of this. So one issue is, again, let's call attention to this. Do not go in and manually insert the exceptionality. Please don't just do that, okay? The first thing you need to check is this notice and eligibility decision. Make sure that it has been finalized, okay? This document will automatically write the exceptionality over here. Now we are sometimes so that's one reason. It could be that this is not finalized. Okay, so I have a question. Hold on just a second. Let me read it. Okay, so someone says that for pre-K, our administrative assistant said that when they are inactive, the parent contact information doesn't sync to the referral form or to student contacts under profile. We must make them referred. I don't think that's true. Let me do some checking on that because when the parent contact in SIS is not active, when it's marked not active, it will not sync. I know that. But I have not heard that for anything else. So let me check that because that's going to be a PowerSchool problem. We absolutely do not need to be making changes to that status. It will automatically make that change. So it takes some time though. So once that person puts information in SIS, it takes at least, I've seen it happen at the 3-hour mark, but it takes at least 3 hours and usually overnight for the two programs to talk, for that to be available in special programs. So the official word from Dr. Green in Special Education Services, who is over our data section, and from PowerSchool is do not change those statuses manually unless there is no other option. And that is not, changing it at the beginning should not be occurring, okay? And we can talk about that a little bit more. Yes, okay, thank you. All right, so let's think about this. So when we are making sure that the statuses are in final, and then sometimes it's because the profiles are incomplete. Now we've had a issue this school year for people who were enrolled during this school year who transferred in that their special education history and other elements of their profile did not come in correctly. PowerSchool over this past weekend implemented a fix. So if your people were missing special education history in this box right here, this profile, when you fly out the special education history, if this was blank for your students who enrolled this school year, then make sure if it's still blank today, please reach out to Sherry or me because we have to report back. I have been doing spot checks and I have found no errors. So if you do see some special education history empty as of today, then please let Sherry or me know because we need to report that back to Power School and to Stacy Royster at the department. Now, if you see an incomplete profile on a transfer in student and it looks like this, don't go and press the edit button and insert those dates from the documents you find. The way to fix this will be to re-request that envelope from the previous district and merge the profile when you bring it in, okay? So that's the correct way to fix that because all of these are document driven, and so you want to use the document processes to fix that. I want to go back a slide and say one more thing about this primary exceptionality. For those students who were out-of-state transfers and you use that transfer review form, it will kick out an exceptionality must contain a valid code error. And the reason it does that is because when you say in that student transfer review form that you are going to be providing comparable services to what that out-of-state IEP says based on the flow chart in Mastering the Maze for out-of-state transfers, it's going to, when you finalize that student transfer review form, it's going to mark the status as active. It's going to give them an IEP date and an LRE code because you're going to have to enter that on that student transfer review form. But there is not a place to enter exceptionality. Now, if you are following the out-of-state student transfer process, you're going to be completing the initial eligibility process, initial referral process. So what's going to happen is when you finalize, so you're going to have to deal with this error for a little bit until you finish eligibility for Alabama. And once you complete that eligibility form, it will change the profile and it will insert that exceptionality, and that primary exceptionality code will go away. That error will go away in AIM. So it will need to stay there until you finish eligibility, and then it will go away once you finalize that notice and eligibility decision. Okay? Now, I said a lot. If you have questions, I would welcome you to raise your hand and I will unmute you, or you can type it in this box and in your chat box and I will answer them. I would love to spend some time answering your questions. And I do want to direct you over to our well, first of all, this is, oh, excuse me, who was that? Wendy. Okay, let me unmute you, Wendy. Okay, there you go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, yes, I sure can.
Hey, I know this has nothing to do with what you talked about today, but this issue just came up this morning, so I thought maybe I would ask. So my teachers are trying to bulk print progress reports, but the problem is because they've already completed next year's IEPs, it's pulling those. It's pulling 25, 26 goals.
Okay. So what we need to do is we need to tweak your report. So Wendy, if we can hop on a WebEx.
Okay.
And get that fixed for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Will you just send me the link?
I sure will.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay, so this is Sherry's contact information in her phone number, and this is my contact information and my phone number, and then this is our live binder, okay? Now, when you click on this live binder, you're going to go to these presentation recordings. A lot of the things that I addressed in very small, quick detail here are listed here. For example, if you have questions about preparing for this next school year, you can, here is a link to the recording and the PowerPoint. If you want to know about the student transfer review document and data flow, here's the recording, here is the PowerPoint. Also, if your district is not doing the student transfer review document and data flow, please start doing that. They are looking for this document, the student transfer review document, in monitoring. So if you are not doing that, please make sure you are